I spent $13,000 on an incredible surprise dream getaway for my parents, and they practically shoved me out the door without even glancing in my direction. So I left quietly and took every single thing back with me. What followed? They never saw it coming. My mom was chopping vegetables, staring hard at the board when she muttered under her breath, "What are you even doing here?" My dad let out a dry chuckle from his chair at the table. "Didn't we make it clear this year was family only?" I stayed silent. I just offered a small, tight smile, placed the elegant gift bag on the table, and walked away without saying anything. 30 minutes later, my phone started blowing up. Luxury holiday catering canceled. Vacation deposit put on hold. Family Netflix profile logged out everywhere. Then my sister's message popped up. "Are you actually serious right now?" I typed back. What hurt the worst wasn't the words themselves. It was how they were delivered, like I didn't even exist, like I was some stranger barging into their sacred space. I had spent weeks putting this whole thing together. Endless evenings after my shift, browsing resorts, hunting for the perfect beach package, double-checking the guest list with my aunt who swore up and down that absolutely everyone would be there for the big anniversary. And she wasn't wrong. When I arrived, the driveway was packed, 7 cars I recognized instantly. Cousins, their partners, even Uncle Tom's beat-up old truck. But the moment I stepped inside, all I heard was the steady thump of the knife on the board and a voice that never bothered to look up. "What are you doing here?" She didn't pause, didn't acknowledge me, like I'd interrupted something untouchable. Dad was sprawled at the kitchen table with his coffee and the daily paper, and he delivered the knockout blow. "Didn't we say family only this year?" No joke in his tone, no affection. Just a flat, icy fact, like the word family no longer included me. In my hand was a beautiful black gift bag with gold tissue spilling over the top. Inside lay a handcrafted anniversary photo book I'd poured hours into, a heartfelt letter in my own handwriting, and at the very bottom, a crisp envelope holding 2 first-class tickets to the Bahamas, 6 nights in an oceanfront suite, private terrace. Complete spa access, every detail they'd ever sighed about, one day when we can finally afford it. I'd turned their one day into right now. And they wouldn't even let me get a sentence out. I didn't fight, didn't demand answers, didn't utter a single word. I simply walked into the dining room, set the bag down gently as if it were fragile glass, and left. My uncle spotted me from the living room and half rose from the couch, but I kept walking. Nobody called me back. I drove 3 blocks before pulling over. I wasn't crying. Anger hadn't fully hit yet. I was just finished. Finished pretending this was acceptable. By the time I reached the highway, decisions were already made. Catering gone. Vacation funds locked. Streaming accounts wiped. And my sister's text again, "Are you for real?" I thought about the $2,000 phone loan I'd just cleared for her when her credit was shot, the cash I wired so her car wouldn't get repossessed while she cried on the phone. "Are you for real?" I answered. Real barely scratches the surface. They still had no clue about the Bahamas. Not one person knew except Uncle Jim, who'd helped me secure the booking and promised silence. The big reveal was supposed to happen after the toast at dinner, complete with a video montage of crystal water and white sand playing on their living room TV. That had been the dream. The dream had shifted. Now I was done being the reliable safety net they only remembered when they were falling. Fine. I'd remove the net entirely. And they had no idea how far the drop really was. By that evening I could picture the scene perfectly. Cousin Lisa, always the curious one, would fish the gift bag open first. She'd find the letter, scan it quickly, then pull out the envelope. Someone would joke, "Ooh, fancy," right before she announced it out loud. She booked them an entire trip to the Bahamas. Like, the full dream vacation. Dead silence. Then Uncle Paul, probably several drinks in, would blurt, "Holy hell, she really went all out." Just like that. No warning. Just treated like the caterer who showed up on the wrong day. My parents? Mom probably froze with her fork in midair. Dad leaned forward, trying to make sense of it. Then the realization crashed in. They'd just kicked their winning lottery ticket out the door. I didn't need to witness it. I'd lived versions of this dynamic my entire life. First comes the shock, then the frantic huddle, then the desperate spin. It didn't matter. While they scrambled and blamed each other, I was home in perfect quiet for the first time in years, the kind of peace that comes when you finally mute the chaos. I fixed myself dinner, poured a glass of wine, turned every notification off, and set my phone face down. Then I unplugged it completely. I didn't want to see a single name from that side of my life. No guilt. Not even a flicker. they'd mastered making me feel small even while taking everything I offered. This time I handed them the moon, and they still managed to treat me like dirt. When I woke up the next morning and finally plugged the phone back in, the fallout was waiting. 19 missed calls. Voicemails from both parents. From my sister. The texts were pathetic, long paragraphs of sudden tenderness. "Sweetie, we're so sorry. You never told us. We had no idea," as if their abrupt change of heart could erase the ice in their voices from the day before. By the time I finished scrolling, there was a knock. I knew exactly who it was. I waited, watched through the peephole. Both of them standing there like they were attending a wake. Dad clutching a generic bakery bag. Mom holding one of those last-minute apology cards you grab at the checkout line. They looked like door-to-door salespeople with a terrible pitch. When I finally opened the door, they plastered on smiles like nothing had happened. Mom stepped forward first. "We just want to talk, honey." I let them in, curious how long the performance would last. They sat awkwardly, like guests in a stranger's house. Dad cracked a lame joke about traffic. Mom asked about my work like we were casual acquaintances. Then, right on cue, Mom eased into the real reason, voice soft and careful. "You didn't actually cancel the trip, did you?" I didn't blink. Told them it was gone, sold to a coworker that very morning. The mask slipped. The warmth evaporated. They went quiet, sat there stunned. I offered nothing, no explanation, no comfort, no apology. After a few painful minutes, they stood up, left the untouched pastries, and shuffled out. Dad muttered something about talking later. Mom shot me a calculating look, already plotting her next angle. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Part 3. The backlash. The first clue something was wrong was the way my car leaned in the driveway, nose down like it was surrendering. I thought I was seeing things until the streetlight hit the rubber, just shredded. Both front tires completely destroyed. I sat in the driver's seat a long moment, staring. This wasn't random vandalism. This was deliberate. This was personal. Only 2 people I knew were petty enough and bold enough to send that kind of message. The same 2 who'd sat in my living room hours earlier pretending everything was fine because they still believed the trip was salvageable. I went inside, kicked the door shut, opened my laptop, and started working. First, the renovation fund. They'd been planning to finish the basement into a rental suite for passive income. Couldn't afford it themselves, so every month I quietly transferred $1,500 into the dedicated account. They knew I was covering most of it, just not exactly how much. Transfer stopped. Account frozen. Next, my sister, barely surviving her dead-end job. I'd been sending $800 every month for rent, so she wouldn't drown. She never said thank you properly, just a heart emoji and silence. Recurring payment canceled. Accounts unlinked. Then the phone loan. $2,200 I'd co-signed, and eventually taken over completely when she stopped paying. Auto pay removed. Her problem now. Every streaming service they leached off me for years: Netflix, Disney+, HBO, Prime, Spotify, passwords changed, devices signed out. On Netflix, I renamed the main profile, Free Rides Over. Last, the contractor who was scheduled to start framing next week. I'd already prepaid the deposit, but the bulk was still pending. Called him, told him to pause everything indefinitely. I'd settle what was done, nothing more. It wasn't revenge, at least that's what I told myself. It was balance. For once I wanted to stop being the endless ATM they only appreciated when the cash was flowing. I still had one more thing to check. I opened the security app and pulled the footage from earlier that evening. 7:08 p.m. A familiar car parked across the street. Passenger door opened. My dad stepped out, walked straight to my car, no hesitation, no looking around. Knelt by the first tire for about 25 seconds, another 25 seconds, then casually returned to the car where my mom waited behind the wheel. They drove off. I didn't save the clip to the cloud. Didn't need to. It was burned into my memory. I turned my phone back on. It exploded again, text shifting tone completely. "Mom, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand. Dad, you're still our child. Don't destroy everything over one bad day. Sister, why did my rent money disappear?" I ignored every single one and let them sit in the dark I'd lived in for years, unseen, unheard, taken for granted. The next day was eerily calm. No calls, no knocks, nothing. Then around noon, another knock, aggressive and impatient. My sister, alone this time. I opened the door only halfway. She launched in immediately. "You stopped my rent money?" I confirmed it. Told her I'd cut everything: rent, phone, streaming, the works. Told her to ask mom and dad why. She glared like I was the villain. You're punishing me for something they did. I let the silence stretch, then asked quietly, did you say a single word when they told me to leave? Have you ever once stood up for me? She looked away. Then she tried guilt. You think slashing your own family's tires is normal? I smiled for the first time in days. You think I don't have the whole thing on camera? Tell mom I'm not going to the police, yet. That shut her up. She fidgeted, muttered, Mom said you wouldn't call the cops anyway, then turned and left. 5 minutes later the apologies flooded in again. Excuses, deflections, rewritten history. Dad even tried, we were just letting off steam. They were panicking, terrified I'd actually press charges. Then an unexpected text from cousin Ryan, someone I barely spoke to anymore. Hey, check Facebook. Uncle Mike posted something weird. I did. Uncle Mike, technologically challenged Uncle Mike, had written a long, bitter rant about ungrateful children who throw money around but have no real loyalty. He never used my name, but everyone knew. The comments were brutal. Aunts and cousins I hadn't seen in years piling on, no wonder she wasn't invited. Always acted better than everyone. Money doesn't buy family. Then I saw the one that made my blood run cold. My own mother, publicly in the comments. Those tickets should be for real family anyway. I stared at the screen, then did the only thing that felt right. I posted a single screenshot, plane tickets, full itinerary, final cost $12,837.19. Caption: this was their anniversary gift. They wanted family only. Guess I don't qualify. Phone off again. Let them choke on it. By morning the post had blown up across family circles. I hadn't tagged anyone, but the right eyes saw it, and word spread like wildfire. By noon I had dozens of messages. By 2 p.m., Uncle Mike left a shaky voicemail saying he hadn't known the full story and wanted to clear the air. The family group chat turned into a battlefield, half the cousins suddenly on my side, the other half deleting comments and pretending they never wrote them. Screenshot evidence was everywhere. The admin finally locked the chat and messaged me privately. It's a war zone in here. I never left the couch. Around 3 p.m. the doorbell frenzy started ringing, knocking over and over. My parents again. I ignored it. After 6 straight minutes an envelope slid under the door. Inside, a scribbled note from Dad. We're sorry. We lost our temper. It wasn't supposed to go this far. We've dreamed of that trip for 35 years. Please don't punish us for one mistake. One mistake. I could write a novel of their one mistakes. Half an hour later the contractor called. Dad had tried to take over the basement payments himself. Card declined 3 times. Then the cell carrier called. My sister's bill bounced. Service cut off in 48 hours. Everything was crumbling exactly as planned. That evening cousin Lisa texted. Mom called her sobbing, begging her to convince me to at least reinstate the trip. She says she can live without the rest, but the Bahamas was everything. I didn't answer. Next morning I went to leave for groceries and saw fresh red spray paint on the side of my house, selfish, in giant capitals. When apologies failed, they moved to public shaming. When that failed, vandalism again. I filed a police report for documentation, got a quote to repaint, $100. Paid it myself. No more free labor for me. By the end of the week the family group chat was dead, no memes, no baby pictures, no holiday plans. Just radio silence, like everyone finally admitted what we all knew, it was never really a family. Police gave the standard, we'll keep an eye out speech. Painter fixed the wall the next day. While he worked I sat on the porch drinking coffee, scrolling through old photos of barbecues and parties I'd always bankrolled and organized. They smiled widest when they were receiving. Never again. Saturday morning Dad sent a voice note, voice cracking, claiming the kitchen thing was just a joke gone wrong. Then after a long pause, we'll never be able to afford that trip on our own. You know that. This was our one shot. Blame wrapped in pity. That afternoon I called the travel agency, confirmed the package had indeed been transferred to my coworker, and asked if I wanted to send formal cancellation to the original guests. I declined. Let them wonder forever. Then I made one last move. The joint emergency fund I'd kept topped up for years as their safety net. $14,000. Transferred every cent to a new account they'd never find. That night Mom texted, if you don't help us everything falls apart. She was right. The basement project died. Contractor walked. Sister was on a cheap burner phone. Group chat never recovered. Cousins started picking sides quietly, realizing they might have bet on the wrong horse. And me? I slept better than I had in years. The the worst part wasn't the tires, the paint, or their endless victim routine. The worst part was finally seeing clearly. I'd spent a decade giving them everything, and they only valued me when I was useful. Now they were the ones drowning, and for the first time I wasn't throwing a rope. 3 months later, the silence was absolute. I never expected them to stay quiet this long, but rock bottom is quiet. Then last Tuesday, a handwritten letter arrived, no return address, shaky writing like someone tried to disguise their handwriting. One line, "Grandma wants to speak with you. She's not doing well." I hadn't seen Grandma in almost a year. Last I knew, she was still sharp, still pruning her roses, still the only one who never asked me for $1. She'd stayed completely out of the drama. So I called. She picked up on the 4th ring like she'd been waiting. We spoke for 20 minutes. She never mentioned the Bahamas tires, the Facebook war, nothing. She simply asked if I'd help her sell her house. She was tired of the circus, moving to a senior community upstate, and didn't trust anyone else in the family to handle it fairly. I said yes without hesitation. The next day, cousin Ryan called. "You talked to Grandma?" "Yeah." Long pause. "She changed her will 2 months ago. The house, it's going to you. Just so you know. I didn't ask for it. I never expected it. But it was done." So, what are your thoughts on this story? Do you think I was justified? Or do you see it differently? Drop your opinion in the comments. I'd really like to know where you stand. And if this story hit home, please give it a like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss the next one.